At 6 o'clock, so I'm going to call to order the Village Board of Trustees for the Village of Belleville for Monday, March 17th, 6 p.m. And we will start by doing the pledge. The flag is in the corner over here. So. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. You roll.
President Larson.
Present.
Trustee Bainan.
Here.
Trustee Eichelkraut.
Here.
Trustee Kazmar.
Here.
Trustee Ward. Present. Trustee Ziegler.
Here.
Trustee Zerbis.
Here.
You have a quorum.
Was the meeting
The
posted?
meeting was posted as required by law.
Next, we will do public participation. So public participation allows citizens to be heard on any agenda and non-agenda item. The public may also comment during the public participation section of each item. The village board shall make no decisions or consideration of action of citizen comments for items not on the agenda, except to refer the matter to the village administrator for administrative consideration or to schedule the matter for board consideration at a later date. And tonight we're going to do it a little bit different. That Maren's got the list of people to speak, so she'll call your name, basically take the podium, state your name, address, and we'll give you 3 minutes to make your comments. So I think to start off, I believe Maxine, you had some comments you'd like to make.
Yes. Hi, I am Maxine Ward. First and foremost, I want to apologize if I offended anyone at our last meeting. That was not my intention. I was thinking about the budget and school referendum. And again, I did not intend to offend anyone. I support special ed students politically correct, better known as IEP or IED, Individualized Education Plan, or Individualized Education Development students. I have worked with many over the years at Belleville schools and at my home. Every child has a right to an education. I firmly believe that and promote that. I have worked with a lot of Belleville students during the 56 years that I have been a Belleville resident. My only goal was to help students get the best education and help, if needed, to succeed. Never did I discriminate, nor would I discriminate. I met the students one-on-one and made adaptations to adjust to that student's need. For the people who really don't know me, I am listing some of the items and courses that I have helped out at Belleville schools or in my home. Excuse me. I tutored and helped some senior students in bookkeeping with their final exam of completing a complete set of books, including general ledger, accounts receivable, accounts payable, liabilities, balance sheet, profit, loss, etc. Using phonics, I helped teach several children how to read and to spell. I worked with several kids in the language arts, perfecting spelling, reading, writing, and grammar usage. Spending a lot of time with different students throughout the years, I thought, for them to learn the addition, subtraction, division, and multiplication tables. This time, I also included explanations of how to do algebra and geometry equations and problems, and how to set up story problems so they could arrive at a correct answer. I did a lot of this work during COVID. Never once did I discriminate. I made modifications based on the individual needs of the students. I helped all students. Helping students in social studies, history, preparing and presenting country reports, learning about our country's history and wars, government setup and procedures was very rewarding. I think this helps students to appreciate the great country we live in and the freedoms that we all often take for granted. Loving chemistry myself, many hours were spent helping students learn the table of elements and the interaction of certain elements, even with experiments in chemistry. One of my most rewarding moments came when I, at work, got a phone call from Mrs. Odegaard, bless her soul. She was an English teacher. She said, "Maxine, what did you do?" I have been teaching Shakespeare for I believe she said either 23 or 27 years. And junior and senior boys in particular flunked my Shakespeare unit test. I just had 6 boys who got perfect or near perfect scores on this test. She said, I asked one of the boys, what did you do? And they said, we had a roundtable discussion at Maxine's house. That's right. Every Wednesday night for several weeks, 10 p.m. till midnight, we read, discussed, and interpreted the meaning of various Shakespearean phrases and the plays. These boys went back to school understanding various words, meanings, and the story and the plot of these plays. I was extremely proud of these students and their results. Another example of how I helped students was with the 4th and 5th grade visit to the Belleville Crane Foundation with their teacher, a great educator. Michael Connor was our bus driver, great guy. I was a chaperone. There were 2 buses that took students to this unique place. After the visit, their teacher handed every student several pages of worksheets that needed to be completed. The kids were complaining that they didn't understand what went on and what teacher had told them. So as Mike drove the kids back to Belleville, I led a discussion with the students regarding the worksheet questions and answers. Every student on that bus had their sheets completed by the time we got back to school. Their teacher, he was amazed and very appreciative. Jeopardy was the name of the game in a 7th grade science class that I was sent to help. Students could choose their table and fellow students at each table. This was true for every table except the table that the teacher had all the IED students go to. I was told to go to that table. Some of the IEP students complained, this isn't fair, we can't win. I reassured my table that I would help them. We were a team. The subject was igneous, metamorphic, and sedimentary rocks. I reviewed with my table how each of these rocks were formed and which rocks were what kind. As questions were asked, my students at this table would guess at the right answer. If wrong, I would help them figure out the correct answer. Well, guess what? Our team of IEP students won. The expressions and happiness shown on their faces said it all as they chose their prizes. I should probably mention at this time, P.S., I have a minor in geology.
So you need to wrap it up. You're getting 6 months.
I'm not done. I need to finish it. Please.
I think I need to be, I've been overly fair already because we, yes, 3 minutes per presentation and I've given you 6. All right.
Okay. Well, I can't tell you the rest of it, but I can tell you I have worked a lot with all the students. And I never chose favoritism. I worked on them one-on-one and worked as a, they were not, I didn't compare them in the essence of how much or how great they were. I worked with them because they were not a number. They were a person. They had rights. And I treated every student as learners, not as a label. So since I can't tell you the rest of this, I just want you to know that I've done several things over the years, such as stepping up as a coach for the 6th grade basketball team that went to Evansville because the coaches that did.
We're told to stop. Like, several times.
So I'll hold the meeting in order here, but yeah, we need to wrap it up.
Well, I'm wrapping it up.
Well,
I'm sorry. Thank you.
So,
But anyway,
well,
I did step in.
I'm gonna wrap it up right now.
Okay, I have one more sentence. So
No.
over the years, may I finish?
Get it out.
Okay, over the years of teaching piano lessons, I am teaching piano lessons yet for 56 years. Or when I accompanied kids, never did I refuse a student because of their ability or lack of. I helped all to succeed. So with that in mind, I appreciate you for listening, and I have several other things that I can tell you that I have worked with over the years. Thank you.
Connie Erfer.
Connie Erfer, Belleville. Usually I'm not so nervous. Wish there were this bunch of people all the time. But now I'm nervous because there's lots of people and TV stations here. I think this has gotten way out of hand, or I might not even be saying it right. I was taught, I've worked at school for 37 years, and I was taught that if there's a problem, you don't go to the head, you start down here. I think Maxine and the parents should have got together and discussed this so each knew how the other felt. If that didn't work, the principal and the president of the board should have got together with them. And if that didn't work, then I'd have come here. But that's just me. That's how I was taught. I don't know. I'm sure that Maxine didn't mean it to be harmful. I don't know if Maxine knew this child was special needs. Everybody got all upset because she named the child, which she didn't name the child, because I didn't even know who they were talking about. And then I found out who they were talking about, and I thought, oh, maybe she doesn't realize that's the way this child communicates. He's not a quiet child, and as you can see, I have jumped a few times because I'm not used to it anymore, and I'm deaf in one ear, so this ear really is loud. But we have to learn to work together, and like I said, I don't know if she knew he had special needs. And when I had this child in my classroom, I learned that he liked music. And I would sing to him I first got thrown into the library, never got told I had anybody coming in with any needs. His person comes in with him, his aide sits in her lap, and all of a sudden he started doing his talking. And I'm like, holy cow, how am I going to do this? Because I can't read why this is going on. And I thought to myself, I can't do this because like I said, you weren't trained, you weren't told, you were nothing, you were thrown in there. And as you go, you learn what they need. You learn what they're talking about, what's important to them, because they'll find something in a book that they like when you're reading to them. And this child, I found out, like I said, liked music. And I would sing good morning to him as soon as he came in, and he would relax. If he started talking again, expressing himself is what I should say, I would sing one of the lines of the book. So I'm not saying that it's right what Maxine brought up. Like I said, I don't think she intentionally meant it. I don't know if she knew he was a special needs child and this was his job. I was told this is his job. He takes the mail from room to room. And so that is the reason that he's on the tricycle. That's his job. That should have been brought forth to her. Okay, that should have been brought forth to her. And I just wish everybody would have just got together and talked this out instead of all this that's going on. And like I said, I'm really nervous and I probably just fell all over my words. But anyways. Yeah.
Judy Bacha. Good up gas. Okay. Ewan Williams.
You can get my speech up.
Sure.
All right, may I start? Okay. Hello, my name is Ewan. I'm here today because I want to address something very deeply concerning. One of your elected officials has said that people with special needs should not be in the school system. As an autistic student, I am here to say that this is kind of thinking is not only wrong, but goes against everything that education stands for. Special needs people, like all students, have a right to an education. We are not a burden. We are not less deserving. We are students who think, learn, and succeed in our own ways. Saying this, that we don't belong in school, is not just offensive, it's discrimination. Words like these aren't just harmful to the students and their special needs, but also to their loving parents, caring friends, and anybody who cares about them. It's obvious that these statements are incredibly downputting. We are already made fun of enough and mocked by students. We don't need an adult talking like we are less than any other student. A student saying this is cruel and unacceptable. If a student said this, there would be consequences. An adult and elected official of our town saying this is terrible and unforgivable. An adult getting away with this is just wrong. When I heard what she said, I felt a pit in my stomach from rage and from sadness because I trust the people of Belleville. I will never be the same. I ask this board to take a stand against this discrimination and make it clear that special education students and all students deserve respect, support, and equal education. Schools must be a place where students feel safe and valued, no matter how their brains work. I close my speech by saying that special education students belong in school. They belong in society, and it's quite apparent that some people can't see that. Thank you. That is all.
Scott Cannon.
Hello, my name is Scott Cannon. So, the last village board meeting, as I think everyone knows, just to recap the events that occurred. Member of the board done a tour of the school where she was told not to give any identifying information about students or anything that proceeded to do so, making the student clearly identifiable, violating any number of rules. A minor child, incidentally, then proceeded to say that the school board could reduce costs by not having special education. I was here. I know what you said. I was 3 feet away from you. This is a violation of state law. You advocated that the board save money by ignoring, casting aside state law. This is completely unacceptable for an elected official to advise casting aside the law. It is completely unacceptable for an elected official to advocate discriminating against children and the disabled. You chose a group that is utterly defenseless to discriminate against. And frankly, a half-hearted apology where you refer to the rights of the disabled as politically correct is completely and utterly unacceptable. Your resignation is acceptable and nothing else is acceptable. Thank you.
Jessica.
Evening. Jessica Lone, I'm from Belleville. Took a lot of thought and process to get to this point. I am a special education teacher. I'm here on my own beliefs and why I entered that profession. I've lived in Belleville my entire life, and I grew up knowing a community that's always been welcoming and accepting of all of its members. The actions and the comments that were made last board meeting, it saddened my heart to recognize or realize that we have people in our community that had such very vast different opinions on the members of its population. I think that we all agree that we want Belleville to be the best in any surrounding community. That's what we strive for. But a school is not only successful by the curriculum it teaches to achieve high test scores, but the curriculum we teach that goes beyond the textbooks. We are growing a population of students that are going to be our next leaders, the next people that are going to make a difference in not only our lives, but in the life of our nation. We have to ensure that they're getting an education that encapsulates empathy, compassion, and kindness. One, where they view students or view others, that their struggles are real. They might not have the same struggles as you or I, but they are going forth in their life and deserve all the same life experiences that our students or our children do. I think that when we look at the special education population today, to believe that it is a hindrance to the education of the students that also involved in their classroom is heartbreaking. Our students, no matter what population, are learning from one another. You look at any student, and a student with an IEP has shown more perseverance and more grit than any student that is more able-bodied. These students work every day on challenges that we can't even begin to understand, whether learning to pedal a bike, learning to walk, or learning to stand without assistance, or learning that our voice can carry sound and express emotions is something we can't begin to understand. They deserve a celebration when they make those triumphs. I am one of the loudest teachers because I in that celebration with my students. They deserve connection as well. I believe that Belleville can do better. We are a community that obviously we show up in drones to support those around us. I just hope that we can do better moving forward. Thank you.
David Boyd.
Hi, I'm David Lloyd. I'm from Belleville, East Avenue. I am father to a special needs adult, Jacob Lloyd, who can only be the person that Maxine Ward referred to when she talked about the boy on his bicycle going up and down the halls. He was delivering his papers. Yeah, it's very clear that that's who she's talking about. He's been out of the school for 3 years. He's aged out. He's just been living at home with medical issues and, trying to kind of rebuild his health a little bit to participate in society. So this was 3 years ago that he aged out. So if it is indeed, Jacob, that you were talking about, Maxine Ward, this is something you've held in your heart for a long time. This, as you called it, awful, how one particular student was loud and making it unable to teach in always. I mean, it shows the fact that you hung on to this for so long, and the fact that you use the phrases like special eds as a euphemism for certain type of disabled people with unusual behaviors. It shows, frankly, a misunderstanding that these children are somehow a separate class of students, that they don't belong with other students, that they need to be separate. I mean, it's inconvenient sometimes to live with people with disabilities in the community. I mean, I'm not gonna lie. He's sitting here, we're all sitting in a meeting, he vocalizes, and it can be hard, you have to pause your sentence, let him finish his vocalization before he can continue. But the fact is that people like Jacob are a part of the community. They're an integral part. They're always gonna be disabled people in your community. They're always gonna be there. When you disrespect people who have special needs in the community, you disrespect the entire community. People with disabilities deserve consideration from our trustees, not just when we're talking about budgets to cut. They're counting on you, all of you, to remember that they exist and that they live among us. Including children with disabilities in schools isn't just about those children allowing disabled children to receive a fair chance at education. It's about all students and how they can learn to live in a community with people with disabilities. And just accepting them for who they are, and just not thinking that it's an unusual thing for people with disabilities to be included inside the community. You can see it, like some people have chosen, because of their exposure to disabled people in school, have chosen careers of helping the disabled, or decided to spend some of their volunteer time to help those with disabilities. It's not the kind of thing that can come from books. It's not just about test scores. It's not just about getting a worksheet done. It's about learning how to live with people who are different from yourself. But it's not my job to educate any. It's your job to educate yourselves, frankly. And Maxine Ward, you've given us little reason to believe that you'd start doing that. You seem very set in your ways. I don't see any reason to believe that you are capable of substantial change. In a community like ours, with your kind of attitude, frankly, could only have gained a representative position when nobody else was running against you. And honestly, I think that's on us for not paying close enough attention to make sure that when people run, that there's a pool of candidates so that we can weigh the issues. But I can tell you that though we may not have been paying attention before, we're paying attention now. And I want to inform you that you've lost our trust. And on April 16th, we're going to start a process to recall and replace you. You're going to have to face a real opponent in a real election. I don't have faith in your chances. Your best opportunity right now to serve your community is to resign. This would be in the best interest of everyone, including yourself. But I expect that your time in office will be coming to an end soon, regardless. Thank you.
The last one I have on the list, Jason Loungy.
Good evening. I'm Jason Belleville. I'm Executive Director at Access to Independence, which is a disability-led and run organization that serves all of Dane County and Greene County. I'm also a former resident of the village, and I have a current student at Belleville High School. I'd like to speak to the comments that were made during the village board meeting on March 3rd, specifically those that were patronizing and disparaging towards students with disabilities in Belleville. First, we should never refer to students as special eds. The type of services and supports that students with disabilities may need to have their right to a free and fair education does not define them. Person first language like student with a disability, or even identity first language like disabled student is appropriate. So I encourage all of you to take the time to learn about the right language to use. Second, the comments that were made about students yelling or riding a tricycle are simply perpetuating ableism rather than understanding. It was truly an uninformed judgment as to why a student with a disability learns or communicates the way they do, and that it was made in a public space exacerbated the harm such judgments cause. Worse yet, it reinforces outdated beliefs that having students with disabilities in school, no matter how significant their disability, is detrimental to the learning and well-being of their fellow students. That is simply wrong, and that sort of thinking is shameful. Additionally, students with disabilities have better opportunities to thrive and succeed at school when they have the services and supports they are entitled to have under the Federal Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, or IDEA. Unfortunately, our state legislature has failed to provide the necessary level of special education funding to ensure each student has those services and supports. So instead of blaming students, let's hold the state legislature accountable. I applaud this community for coming together, and I thank you all for the opportunity to share my comments this evening.
Does anybody else want to speak?
Yeah.
Can you make sure?
My name's Corey Williams. I know it's not. I didn't have anything prepared, so this is going to be off the cuff. My name's Corey Williams. The young man, Ewan Williams, is my son. I have a mom of 3 special needs kids. 3 kids that 2 are already served by the school, and 1 will be in the school in 2 years. The comments that you made, Maxine, broke my heart. The fact that someone who is supposed to be someone that my children can look up to, you're an example of what Belleville is supposed to be. And my children cannot look up to you because you said horrible things about them and their friends. My son should not be shipped somewhere else, and neither should my daughter. For 1, it's against the law. And for 2, some of the best friendships and support he has ever made, and my daughter has ever made, are with non-special needs students who benefit from their being there. Also, your comments about sped eds and special needs students and students with IEPs is really, really broad and really, really uninformed. There are many students who have IEPs or 504 plans who are under the special education department. That also include any child who has any kind of modifications, or even the gifted and talented students. Should we ship them somewhere else too? That's all I have to say.
Two more now.
Two more now.
Yeah. Hayden Boyce.
My name's Hayden Boyce. I am a resident of Belleville. I graduated class of 2023. I was in middle school when Jake was in high school. And our teachers, whenever he would be in the hallway, if he made too much noise or anything, got too loud, they would just shut their door and continue their lecture. Because our teachers are well equipped and able to teach and speak and have students know that it is not a distraction, that he is able to exist and be in the school. I was a teacher aide for one of their other kids who was in middle school when I was a senior. I taught for his art class. Whenever he would get too loud or distracting, a different teacher or the principal, Vice Principal Loshaw, would come in and talk to him and calm him down, and he would continue with his day. Because it is not that difficult for our teachers who are well equipped and who know how to work with these students to help calm them down, or to help other students realize there are going to be people in the world who maybe have some sort of disability or some sort of learning curve, who need some extra help. Our teachers know how to do that because they have been working with these students side by side for their whole learning career. Thank you.
That's it.
That's it.
All right. So we will move on to the consent agenda. So all items on the consent agenda are considered routine and will be enacted in one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless a board member requests it, in which event the item will be removed from the consent agenda and considered the first item after the approval of the consent agenda. This includes village board meeting minutes from March 3rd and a number of special events applications for Kiwanis Garage and Bake Sale, Music in the Park, and the Farmers Market.
I make a motion that we accept the consent agenda as is.
Second. Motion by Maxine, seconded by Deb. Further discussion, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Passes. Okay, now is the village president's report. Okay, so I appreciate everybody showing up tonight. Here, because it's. I'm going to start off. I'm going to start off with, I guess, my statement. First was the context of the March 4th meeting, right? So the background of that is the village was approached by the Belleville School District asking for an opportunity to utilize time during the March 4th, 2025 Village Board meeting to give a school district referendum presentation. The presentation was added to the Village Board agenda and the school district was provided their opportunity to present. The school district included a question and answer portion to their informational presentation, during which all who were in attendance, including village board members, were provided an opportunity to ask questions. In the context of the interaction, an informational presentation by the school district, the village was neither endorsing the content of the school district's presentation nor advocating for any position as it relates to the referendum. The village board has no authority over the school district. Say that one again. The village board has no authority over the school district. We weren't taking any action. We weren't suggesting any action. We were merely asking questions as residents of the village and thereby residents of the school district. On a personal note, I was saddened that during the question and answer portion of the school district's presentation, a number of insensitive questions were raised relating to special education services offered by the school district. I would echo comments made by one of the residents during the interaction to recognize that all students deserve the opportunity to learn and avail themselves of the school district's educational services. Now I'm going to talk about village stuff. So, as some of you may or may not know, my term is about to end as village president. When I started my term in April of 2023, I had big goals of trying to move Belleville in a positive direction. I was elected as a change agent, and I think it's fair to say I implemented changes almost immediately. In case you've forgotten where the village was in 2023, here are a few highlights or lowlights. The results of our 2022 audit revealed that the village's unassigned general account had a balance of negative $109,083 as of December 31st, 2022. Village Hall was effectively closed with service only being available through the lobby service window. Village Hall itself had a toxic culture. It wasn't uncommon to regularly hear, quote, "It's not my job," or quote, "I'm too busy to do anything else." Months and months of outstanding village board meeting minutes. We were understaffed in a number of areas, and we certainly had financial limitations. Over the following year, I did my best to challenge trustees to think through our decisions as it related to finances, spending, budgeting, staffing, and focus on the big picture where we wanted the village to be in the future. I had plans to provide regular updates and generate communications to let the public know about the things going on in the village. In hindsight, if I have any regrets, they relate to my inability and failures to effectively communicate on our progress on all the various things the board has accomplished in the past 2 years. Here are a few of those accomplishments. Improvement of our audit results. I mentioned earlier that in December of 2022, our unassigned general account balance was at negative $109,000 and some change. In December of 2023, that same balance, so a year later, increased to positive $3,763. Although we haven't received the final results of last year's audit, I'm told that as of December of 2024, our unassigned general account balance was over $600,000. This reserve balance has a huge impact on the village's ability to borrow money at a lower interest rate and also positively impacts our audit results. Village Hall was open to the public on October 30th of 2023. Past village board meeting minutes were completed in December of 2023. Thank you, Maren. We replaced a slide in Sugar River Park. No, that's not a huge deal, but it was a big deal for the village because the slide was broke for quite a while. We've added more seats to committees to include residents to more easily share their voices, including on standing committees. We've completion of an extensive compensation study to help guide the village with having competitive wages. We completed an update to our personnel manual, the completion of our comprehensive outdoor recreation plan, which is foundational to help set up our park plans and become eligible for grant opportunities. Village board meetings offer a virtual attendance option, as we've got a number of people attending tonight. And recordings are also available on YouTube to increase transparency. Tonight, I'm hoping we'll be wrapping up a Safe Routes to School plan, an integral and necessary step to determining a means to get children and other residents on the west side to safely cross Highway 69. This study is essential to qualifying for any type of grant or supportive funding for this type of project. We had approval of ATV and UTV routes. We designated Belleville as a tree city. We had a mural agreement finalized for a mural that I believe the painting will be starting in the next month or two, I would imagine, weather permitting. Replaced the roof on our historical library and library park. Established park impact fees to update community and Sugar River parks in years into the future. And we also completed the sale or in the final stages of completing the sale of the depot. In addition to all the projects that were completed during my term, there are a large number of efforts that are still in progress or in process, and I hope the future board will follow through on ensuring our past efforts don't go to waste. And some of these include our TID 3 projects to complete Westside Park space, a trail system, road connections, land purchase for economic development, and potentially a bridge to walk across the river to the north side. West Side tree planting continuing for the next few years. As I mentioned before, with our safe routes to school, the pedestrian access, from the west side to school. We will hopefully finalize bequeathment plans to finalize, be able to implement a gift to the village from a number of years ago. Completing park master plans for Community Park and Sugar River Park. Guidelines for new development and additions to the village. Update to the Vine Street entrance to Community Park. Negotiating our fire and EMS district structure. And lastly, building Belleville's capacity for informed development, which is an effort from our Economic Development Committee. And lastly, I'd like to comment on some of the headwinds facing Belleville. This is my observations. And this may be a very sensitive topic to some, and I'm not sure I'll be able to articulate my thoughts clearly. So I ask your forgiveness in advance. Social media is a wonderful invention in that it permits information to move with such speed and quickly provide information that cannot be accomplished by other means. However, that efficiency can be a double-edged sword. I can't tell you how many times I've encountered posts with unfounded rumors or messages that start off with, quote, "I've heard," that end with a statement that might include significant reputational damage to a local business, inaccurate description of village board actions or decisions, or with no basis in fact whatsoever. So if you encounter a situation in which you don't have all the information, are hearing conflicting stories from different individuals, or don't feel like you understand what's going on, please ask. Village Hall is staffed with wonderful professionals who are here to help. They are happy to meet to answer your questions and share any details that are available. To close, thank you for allowing me to serve as your village president and putting your trust in me. I'm not so arrogant to believe that I've done anything amazing during my term, but I do hope that I've left the village of Belleville in a better situation than I found it. Okay, so next I get to make a proclamation. Don't get to do this very often. So Arbor Day is coming up. So whereas trees are an essential resource in the village of Belleville and the world, and whereas trees help to conserve energy, provide wildlife habitat, and make our homes and community more livable and beautiful, and whereas human activities and actions and acts of nature, a little emotional apparently. Human activities and acts of nature threaten our trees, demanding a proactive community response to ensure the future of our urban forests. And whereas each year people across the country celebrate Arbor Day and pay special homage to the treasure which our trees represent, now therefore be it resolved that I, Jeff Larson, village president of the village of Belleville, do hereby proclaim April 26th, 2025 to be Arbor Day in the village of Belleville, Wisconsin. Be it further resolved that I urge all citizens to become more aware of the importance of trees to their well-being and to participate in tree planting programs that will ensure a healthy and green village and inheritance for future generations in Belleville. And I will be signing this later too. But I want to stress that I think that's actually in coordination, a tree planting effort on the west side that we're still trying to find the details of. But if you have the capacity or willingness to help, we'd be happy to have you help plant some trees in the neighborhood out there that hasn't had trees for about 4 or 5 years now. So we're looking forward to it. So thank you. With that, I'm gonna hand it over to you, Gabe.
Thanks, Jeff. If you guys have, Village Administrator Gabe, if you guys have any questions, I, as the representative for staff and kind of that bridge between staff and the board, feel free to ask any questions. I try to do copies with the administrator, but my card is right on the desk up there. Don't hesitate to reach out. Happy to grab coffee. Happy to explain what's going on in the village. And then in part of that, on what Jeff mentioned on social media, there was some questions about closed sessions and what that means. Closed sessions are a time for the board to be able to talk about things that are more sensitive, usually personnel matters, 4 items that need to be negotiated. And so we're working on a couple of things right now, which would be the Belleville Fire and EMS contract that Jeff already mentioned, the Northeast Sanitary Sewer Extension. This is, we have some development that wants to come to the north side that's across from the Piggly Wiggly. To be able to do that, we need to be able to get the sewer extension out there. And so we are trying to negotiate with the developer on how much can they pay, how much should the village pay and all that. And so in order to be able to have that negotiation, they can't know what the village is willing to negotiate in back. So that's why we're having that one in closed session. And then for the last one for commercial purchase of commercial property. A lot of communities have commercial property that they can use as incentives to get businesses into the village. And so we are working on that as part of our TID projects to see, is there any way that we can incentivize new businesses on the west side? So those were the closed sessions, but that is on my staff report.
I got a name tag up here, so I'm Switzerland, okay? But Mr. Lloyd, that's being a good dad. That's being a good dad.
The in-person absentee for the election on April 1st begins tomorrow. That's the 18th and runs through the 28th. We are open at Village Hall from 8:30 to 4:30 p.m. That's every day, including Fridays when we're usually closed. If anybody wants to come in and vote early. Anyone that had an absentee request or has requested one recently, those absentee ballots have gone out in the mail. If you haven't received yours, please reach out to the clerk's office. If you want to receive an absentee ballot by mail, you can still request one of those until the Thursday before the election at 5 p.m. You can do that either by contacting me or going to myvote.wi.gov. You can also see what's on the ballot there, or it's up on the window on the front. And that's all, unless, I guess I will mention that if you haven't licensed your dog, you have until the end of the month to do that, or the rate's $5. So if you want to utilize the many dog parks in the counties, I would recommend licensing your pup. Thanks.
Evening. My name's Chris Hughes. I'm the newly appointed police chief for the village of Belleville. Some of you may have not been introduced to me, but if you see me around town, please stop by either the police department or stop me on the street. I'm more than happy to talk. So thank you, folks.
Yeah, sure. I'm Drew Eveland. I'm also very, very new here. I'm of operational services. Yeah, all I'll say is we're still planning the Arbor Day business, April 26th, but so nothing's finalized yet, but kind of what we're looking at is planting around 30 trees, maybe a few more with volunteers. So it should be quite the affair. So if you want to volunteer, come out. We'll have more information out later.
Guess I'll speak to. I'm not as new as these two fellows, but I've only been here a year. My name's Andrea Schmitz. I'm the library director. Today is the 4th anniversary of the new library being open, if you can believe that. If you haven't been down there lately, come on down and take advantage of what we have for you.
Next on the agenda is discuss and consider the bike, pedestrian, and safe routes to school plan.
So this has been a long time coming, even before I was here 2 years ago, but the village received a grant from the DOT to figure out, one, for bike and pedestrian, how do we get people from one side of the community to the other? There's a lot of comments on and around social media and just that I've heard that we can't get kids safe to school. And so in order to be able to do that, in order to be able to get grant funding, the state requires us to submit a safe routes to school plan. And so we've been working with Hale Engineering and Sam, who's here, who will present that. So Sam, where are you? There you are. Final recommendations. The floor is yours.
Thanks for having me. Samantha Herheim with Kale Engineering. Bear with me, I'm a little bit hoarse today, so I'll try to project as much as I can. I think I was hoarse the last time I came and talked to you guys too, so it's probably.
Blame it on us.
So we've talked to you guys a couple times. We put together a draft report. Staff has reviewed, we've addressed those comments, and the Department of Transportation is currently reviewing the report. The report is included in your packet for review and consideration, and I'm going to kind of just give you highlights of what it is because it's 30 odd pages and then another 60 odd pages of appendices. So just to give you a highlight of kind of where we've come from the beginning. So just a high level report, overall kind of summary. The report includes a review of existing planning documents, a summary of the public engagement, summary of the meetings we had with the Wisconsin Department of Transportation, existing conditions analysis, improvement recommendations, and then also some village policy recommendations. Now, it's a lot of data. I don't want to go through bore you guys with everything, but our short-term recommendations really focus on the challenges of crossing the highway. And what we learned from our meetings with the Department of Transportation is they actually have a couple of projects planned for construction in 2030. And so we've looked at some ways to kind of optimize the village's money in order to kind of tag onto those projects to get some of these improvements completed. So the first, I guess, recommendation I wanted to discuss with you is we are recommending an underpass just west of Jean Street. That's near that existing kind of cattle pass drainage way. That underpass will be a full-size underpass where you can ride a bicycle under it. And there'll be a path on the south side connecting to the east to Grant, and a path on the north side connecting to the west, Olson. We've included plans, fairly detailed plans, and an estimate in the appendices of the report. We included a detailed engineering analysis of an overpass and an underpass. You can use that for documentation when you're talking to the Department of Transportation about funding and justification for why an underpass is preferred. We're recommending that the village applies for transportation alternative program funding with the Department of Transportation. Last we heard, that funding program was supposed to open up maybe in April or May of this year. That's all kind of TBD right now, but that is what we know right now. We're also recommending that the project is constructed in 2030, sorry, not 2013, I'm sorry, 2030, which is the same time that the DOT project is going to be constructed. So the traveling public is really only disrupted that one construction. Some of the other improvements we're recommending are curb bump outs in the downtown, improved crosswalk marking and signs in several locations. We are recommending that these are all completed with the DOT projects. The DOT, may share in some of those costs. These included cost estimates for all of them for consideration. We're also recommending rectangular rapid flashing beacons at Main Street and Vine, and also at Park Street. We're recommending that those are also completed with the Department of Transportation project. Those would have to be 100% village paid for, but you'll likely get a little bit of a discount on the price because they'll be constructed with a really big project. And we're also suggesting that you guys just kind of keep your eye on requesting speed limit reductions. What DOT shared with us was that as the conditions stand right now, they probably wouldn't consider a speed limit reduction. As things change, especially to the west, as additional developments come in, it's definitely something they would look at. The report includes some of those details, and it also tells you basically where to go within the DOT framework for the directions on how to do that. I don't know if there's any questions on that. Otherwise, I'll roll into the next piece.
I think for the audience, people aren't familiar, the 2030 is going to be a resurfacing of Highway 69, basically from River Street all the way out to almost to the school, I think to Grant, I believe. So the comment of potentially doing this at the same time makes sense just because that whole section of the street is going to be shut down anyway. So it would make logical sense.
Yeah. Is there going to be a closure? Is there going to be any way to get out of Belleville on that road during that time? Or are we just going to be completely going off?
Good luck. That's a great question.
Last time I did it, 20 feet deep holes out there. So, yeah.
That will be up to kind of the Department of Transportation. They're not far enough along in their plans for us to really know what that's going to be.
That'll be part of the communication, I would assume. They'll have just similar to when 69 was repaved, right? There were a lot of informational sessions. I would expect that similar type of community meetings would be had to say what's going on. Here's how we're going to run.
I do have a question on the upgraded crosswalks.
Yeah.
You don't have Green Street and Main Street in here on either one of those. Which is next?
And I believe that's because it's a T intersection and
No,
it isn't an accepting.
Oh, okay.
I think it's because there isn't an accepting ramp on the north side, but I'll double check that because.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
I mean, you got all the other intersections going on Main Street from River or from Vine Street all the way up, but that one wasn't in either one of those. So that was my comment. Just one. That's probably the intersection is any crosswalk and everything.
And we can add that to the recommendation.
And also, I wanted to comment just so for people's picture in your mind. So the cost estimates that are in the report, just because you guys don't have it in front of you, the underpass design is estimated to be around $240,000, and the construction of the underpass is what, 1.17 million. Basically, again, in what's in the document. I think the overpass, if I'm not mistaken, was quite a bit more than that, like
I believe it was over
double, 2 million.
Yeah.
So. Judy?
Getting back to Gary's comment about Reed Street, in between the ed flood chiropractic office and the llama, there is like an easement because that's where I cross to get to the other side of Vine. And I don't know if it was at one time a driveway. I'm not sure how all that played out, but it's, even when they did the street, that opening is,
The cutout is still there.
the cutout is still there. Because that is really busy. It's as busy as Vine Street.
So otherwise, we also took a look at some of the village policies, specifically cost sharing for sidewalks. We did review several neighboring communities. Belleville's policies are very much in line with other community policies, and so we're recommending no change. We also reviewed the snow removal policy, and we are recommending that that is updated to include clearing for paths. Once we start having shared use paths within the village, we're recommending that the policy is modified to include clearing paths 5 feet only, not the full 10 feet, and it would be the 5 feet closest to the residents.
And you're talking about basically paved shared use paths essentially, right? So you're talking about.
Not gravel.
Not the, yeah, not,
Yep.
we're not gonna be doing Eagle Loop anytime soon, so.
Correct, yeah.
So the path you're talking about is through the underpass up, and then it comes down 2 ways.
There'd be a path to the west to get to Olson, and there'd be a path basically in front of the schools to get to Graham.
Okay, so the path to Olson Drive. Right now, that would come from, is it Village Drive up there on the hill?
They'd come from the tunnel.
Yeah.
Come from the other side of the tunnel. Where the tunnel would come underneath 69, there'd be a path from there westward to Olson. Doesn't exist right now.
Okay, I'm trying to mention something.
Just Brian.
But that would be the site, and the back lot, it would be village property. I don't know how much space we've got on it. Likely not.
Okay, and then the south side. So the school district would be.
I don't know how the details of that would work, but yes.
Okay.
And ultimately, this policy is really, a look ahead. I'm just talking about kind of the short-term improvements that we're looking at in the next 5 years. There were several other kind of sidewalk path improvements throughout the village that are recommended in kind of medium and long-term plans. And so that policy update would be looking far into the future, not just what we're talking about. Any questions on that? Otherwise, kind of next steps, we expect to get comments from the DOT in the next couple days. We're asking that you guys review the report and provide any comments back. We'll incorporate changes. And then hopefully you'll be in a position to approve the report at the next meeting. After that, once the report is accepted, village staff can start coordinating with the DOT on these recommended improvements. You can start looking ahead at applying for Transportation Alternatives Program funding. And just as a side note, we do have that proposed facilities map included in Appendix D. So as there's developments, as there are roadway projects, other things happening in the village, please use that as a resource for possible improvements. None of this is absolutely required, but it is recommended and was discussed as, kind of part of the public engagement. Any questions? Okay, thank you guys.
Thank you. Okay, next is discuss and consider ordinance 2025-03 annexing property located in the town of Exeter, Green County to the village of Belleville.
Yeah, so this is one of Jeff Petrie's property on the south side, or on the south side of the village. This was approved through the Plan Commission. They're looking at putting about potentially 250 homes in the Green County portion. That is not what you guys are necessarily approving today. You guys are approving the fact that that property can now be annexed into the village, which then will allow them to submit their plans for staff to review, for EMS, fire to provide their comments, for police to be able to provide their comments, and then for Planning Commission to do all the things that they do. So none of that's on the discussion tonight. All you guys will be doing tonight is say, yep, we agree that this property we would like to accept into the village. It is a pretty simple one in the fact that it's a unanimous petition. It doesn't affect any other properties. It's only one property and it's sole owner. So it's a fairly simple. Next step would be us taking it to the DOR for their review. And we're off to the races with the capital area region.
We adopt ordinance 2025-01, annexing property located in the town of Exeter to the village of Belleville.
Second.
Is it 01 or 03?
It's 2025-03 is.
03, sorry.
Any objection to changing it to 03? 03, that's all right. So motion by Gary, seconded by Maxine. No discussion. Anybody have any questions? Judy?
Is it Josh Petrie or?
Oh,
Because Josh Petrie is who you put in the ordinance.
it's Josh and Jen.
Okay. Secondly, can someone please explain to me why we're going to be as taxpayers 5 years of property taxes on that land in the township of Exeter?
Because it's state statute.
We have to do
We
that.
actually bill back the annexing party for that. It's just statutorily the village has to pay it.
Can you put that in layman's terms besides state statute?
Yeah. We have no choice
Yeah,
but
the
to
law
do
is
that.
that the accepting municipality has to pay 5 years of taxes for the town. And we, as a village, reimburse that through the annexing party. So through, in this case, the Petries. So they'll actually be the one cutting the check, but the money isn't coming from us. It would come from Petries.
Okay, now that makes sense because the way I read this, it's like,
Yeah, it's just according to statute, we have to be the ones to pay it.
okay, even though it is an annexation.
Well, when it
Once
It gets annexed.
Not now, once it's annexed, it's part of the village, and that's when the clock starts for paying the taxes.
Okay, because that was not clear in here. In the ordinance.
So how far does this go?
I think it's 56 acres.
So does it start by the Catholic Church or is it over?
It's on the other side.
It's on the other side of the trail.
Farmland right now that is currently a part of the village.
It's here. It's this green.
There you go. And then it stretches south to the Sullivans.
Yeah, so that the Sullivans actually showed up during the Parks Committee meeting, and they actually want to make sure that they work with the village because the land that they own south of there has some protected wetlands. Make sure that we're careful with how that development happens, basically. So it is down to their.
Are there gonna be houses right up to their lot line?
That hasn't been decided yet. They presented a couple of concept maps of what they're thinking they'll submit, but they haven't made any formal submissions yet.
Is there water there besides their pond?
What do you mean? There's
They-
existing, no, but they would have to put in some ponds for stormwater retention. And I mean, the size and location of those would depend on what end up being part of that.
Isn't there an old road or something? Old,
Down that piece.
I haven't seen anything from the aerials.
I'm trying to think that there's like a old,
Mean like a farm road,
yeah.
farm goes into field in order to harvest.
I mean, I think it's more than that. I'm not sure.
Are you talking about further south that connects with CC? That's on the other side of the trail from this. This is on the east side of the trail. So I don't think there's nothing to drive to east of that because it's kind of like landlocked, basically, as I understand it. That's one of the challenges, I think.
When we start talking about doing the development is fire mass access, because
Essentially, all that access would be from the north because there's not any way to really get out of there from
east and south, right? Yeah.
so, which again, that's not what we're talking about tonight. We're just talking about
What do we want this
potential development
to be in the village?
Okay,
And it's 58.63 acres.
Okay, there you go.
58.
I knew it was 50 something, sorry.
Any further discussion? So got a motion by Gary, seconded by Maxine. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Passes. So item B is discuss and consider Baker's Woods Phase 3 final plat.
Yes, so the plat's attached to the agenda. We have discussed this at the board level already. We've discussed this at planning commission already. This is the neighborhood to the west. That's by the chiropractor shop, off the highway. Where's the tree, clearing of the trees? That's the location of where it is happening. And yeah, this is wait for your final plat. They've already started doing a little bit of work on their own risk, until it's approved by you guys. They're doing it on their own, but with your approval tonight, we're good to go. It's about 20 duplexes, 30-ish, I think, single family. And then there's a commercial lot and a multifamily lot.
Wait till we get to discussion.
Is that possible?
That's fine.
So I'll make a motion to approve the final plat for Baker's Woods Phase 3.
second.
Motion by me, seconded by Shelley. Now we're in discussion, so go ahead, Con. Sorry.
Okay, so who's digging up there?
The developer.
Baker's Group, basically, yeah.
Okay, so they're going ahead and doing it without you voting on it.
No, well, so it's their property. If they want to do it,
They already own the land.
and they're doing you groundwork, so it's well within their right to be able to do that. But if the board said, oh, we want the house here instead of there, it's on them to
They
fix
have to
it.
regrade stuff.
At their own risk.
Yeah.
They can't build
They
anything.
own all the lot. This is literally just saying where the roads are gonna be, where the houses are gonna be, and all of that sort of detail is part of the plat. But they own the land, which is why they were certainly able to take down all the trees and start to grade it because they're trying to prep it, I'm assuming, for the road to come into the neighborhood and all that sort of stuff. Again, I don't think they're
Why do you
hitting.
have to give them, what are you voting on then? What do
So
you,
for the neighborhood, we have to agree that this is what it's gonna look like. This is where the road's gonna be. This is where the houses are gonna be. This is where the curb, the gutter, the streets, the sidewalks. That's what they're doing. And then the building inspector will work through on making sure the houses are right, and the engineers will be on site to make sure they're building it to grade and to level. Utilities have to make sure the utilities are done right. So this is the board saying, yep, we agree with what this neighborhood's gonna look like.
And this has been a months long process. Like this went through plan commission multiple times. It's gone to the board for just, not just a layout, because again, and kind of, you're not gonna like this, but this is also part of the, because it's a PUD, right? We actually reduce some of the lot sizes a little bit to fit to get more parkland in there, right? That was part of the process to get about an acre park on the north end of this property was to reduce some of those lot sizes width wise, to basically facilitate that. So that's kind of all part and parcel of this whole.
The size of those lots gonna be.
60, I think the narrowest, and there's not that many of them, is like 66 feet wide, 68 feet.
Yeah, we
There's a couple.
in January.
So
Generally 7,434 square feet is the average.
But doesn't that go down, didn't that go to 50 by 60 or something? 70?
They could have, but that's not what we approved. We created a new.
Yeah, Connie, so this development actually preceded the change in the ordinance. So the reason why this is a PUD was smaller lot sizes, but this is not the same as the ordinances that we changed just recently for the rest of the village. It's similar, but it's a different, this was done before that because we didn't have the ordinances updated to reflect those smaller lot sizes.
Roughly 63 by 118.
63.
By what?
118 roughly.
Well, that's a lot bigger than those other ones.
Yeah. Just trying to make a comment.
Hey, Gabe, this is Jeff. Can you hear me?
Hey, Jeff. Yep.
Jeff Lincoln held with Arc Design Resources. I see some of you in the audience that have been witnessing my dog and pony show up there for the last 9 months. I just want to make sure that we're approving both the plat 3 and the PUD plat. I didn't quite see that on the agenda. I just want to make sure that both are getting approved, or if there needs to be separate, there's a separate vote for each.
It was recommended that it approves all of it.
Okay, so I'm fine with that. And I don't know if there's any last minute questions, but it's basically everything is the same as the rezone, the tentative plat. You know, I don't remember when we started, back in March maybe, or June of last year. So it's been a long process, but we're at the end and ready to get this platted and then finish out the construction.
Do we need to make any amendment to the motion?
No, with the final plat, it has the PUD map. So if you want to include it, you can, but.
I just want to know why Village of Belleville isn't enforcing ordinances against this developer. Right now, he's in violation of zoning code. You're not allowed to move earth between a certain dates underneath our village code. He's violating those right now. And when I sat on the village board, I was on Public Works and Parks with Gary, and we actually, with 2 developers, issued letters for fines for $10,000 a day. And this developer was one of them for the exact problems that are out there in his developments right now. Erosion, failure to follow ordinance, sidewalk blockages, runoff. So the village really needs to think about doing any work with this developer. I've already addressed that with the zoning staff, so.
Like, do you know that ordinance number?
I can email it to you. It's in 615.
We'll take a look, Mike.
Any further discussion? We've got a motion by me, seconded by Shelley, to approve the Baker's Woods Phase 3 final plat. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Carries. So next. Reports from boards, commissions, and committees. The Parks, Recreation and Forestry. So we got the first draft of our West Side Park layouts. I think we're gonna be, I would expect that we're gonna have the, not to say the final, but much more of a concrete plan at the next parks meeting, for those that, the smaller park and the park that we're talking about with this neighborhood, relative to that. For economic development, again, I mentioned it earlier in my comments, but the building Belleville's capacity for informed development, I think we're setting schedule to get that process started with the PW Center, I believe, is the group that's helping us with that. Like anything from arts and culture?
Making progress on the mural. Tomorrow is the next arts and culture meeting where the second draft will be presented. So if anybody would like to see that, I encourage them to attend. It's at 6 o'clock here.
At the library at the maker space.
Is it the library?
Yeah, in the maker space. So not in the community room. We'll be in the maker space.
Thank you. So that's what's happening there. And if it gets approved, hopefully painting will start within the next month.
Anything for finance and governance?
Finance and governance, what did we all do? We discussed and looked over some of the new village website things. So that's a nice improvement. Checked over our budget to actuals for 2024 and year to date, which we're tracking very well on that. No things terribly out of whack there. And there was some discussion about creating a 501c3 organization. So
for donations
and tracking specifically what donated money is to be applied to. So no consensus has been made based on the amount of effort that will take to organize and track. So,
well, we sought guidance from staff to basically look at other 501c3s that are potentially similar, what sort of donations they're receiving, just to see if it even makes sense to think about moving forward. But I know we've had a number of people have said, oh, we'd love to donate to playground equipment or that sort of thing. And we really don't have a mechanism to receive that. So that was sort of the basis for the whole conversation. Sorry.
Thanks for elaborating.
Sorry, I only get a couple more meetings to do this, Mike, so I have to take advantage.
I'll go the attention, right?
Yeah, I don't want the attention. Fire and EMS district meeting, over Gary.
I was on virtually, but they recognized a couple. Patrick McDonald got paramedic of the year through WEMSA. John Trudeau got EMT of the year through the veterans. I'm not sure exactly what it was, but through veterans recognition. And then they recognized Dan Palmer, who has been on the town of Montrose board for 25, 28 years, something like that. He's not running again, so he's been on the district board the entire time. So, and then the rest of it was the district agreement. Major discussion on that, so we'll talk about that in full session. So, I think that was it.
And you mind if I expound a little bit since we got a couple people here?
Go ahead.
So the conversation relative to the district structure relates entirely to Belleville's representation on the district. So for those of you who aren't aware, Belleville pays for fire, it's equalized value, but it's based on our portion of the equalized value of the entire district.
And I don't remember the percentages, but it's in the 45% neighborhood. So
We pay 45% of the fire district expenditures. For EMS, it's similar, but it's based on population. And for that, I think we're at 43%, if I'm not mistaken. So Belleville pays 43% of the expenditures for the entire district. However, the district board consists of 8 individuals and we only get 2 seats. So we have 25% of the vote, but 43 and 45% of the tab that we're responsible for. And we don't have any way to stop it or any way to influence it other than convince other municipalities that are part of the district if they wanted to reduce a budget item or something else. So that's all that we're trying to
update, basically, is to say, hey, this is essentially taxation without representation. We don't have the voice of the portion that we pay. So we've presented options. I think that's what we're in the process of
doing right now, is trying to figure out a way to basically move that forward. Unfortunately, we don't have a lot of
options relative to that.
So that's what's going on. But there's absolutely no
To the board from anything. I want to speak for anybody, but I think we're all very happy with
the fire service that we provided, the EMS service that we provided, and
continue to be in that posture. So
that's a quick summary of that anyway. So. Sorry, Gary.
That's all I can. Okay, what did I miss anything?
Anything on the public library? Nope. Deb? Planning Commission, we talked about it on the motions tonight, so we should be in good shape. And Tony, anything from police?
It's been ordered and we've got a couple things that'll be.
Wait a second. No,
On the next meeting.
I was gonna say, yeah, because the board has got to approve it before we go forward.
So I technically don't. Technically not, since you guys budgeted for it.
We budgeted for a vehicle.
You budgeted for a vehicle that was within it. We are gonna have the conversation because it's the new vehicle,
Okay.
but it is our recommendation that we go.
Yeah.
But technically you don't have to, but we're doing it because it's a new switch, so we want to have that.
Yeah, I think we're gonna be careful about that. Personal opinion, but that's makes sense. Anything else?
This is probably a oversight. Our CDA committee is not listed on here, Community Development Authority.
We didn't have one since the last board meeting.
Okay, I thought we did.
Yeah, they did.
We didn't have one.
It's this Wednesday.
It's this Wednesday, yeah, the last one. The last one was on the 19th and the last board meeting was on the 3rd.
Yeah.
And you didn't have quorum, so.
We didn't have a quorum. We will do it at the next board meeting, in April.
So the
report.
Yeah, the CDA report will go on the 7th agenda.
So back to police, did I see correctly? We've got an officer that just celebrated 5 years with the force. So
Yeah, we're gonna talk about it at the next meeting.
At the next meeting. Okay. I
And
don't
we're gonna try to work on,
any thunder there. So.
do a recognition of the next board meeting.
Okay.
anything else from updates from committees or otherwise? Okay, communications, miscellaneous business, news and announcements. Again, there are upcoming community events. I don't know if we have any news or announcements at all. Connie?
Is this where I can bring something up that's not on here?
Sure.
When are we going to switch out the porta potty down at the park for the handicapped one? Oregon's got theirs going. What park? Community park.
I just ordered porta potty Wednesday. So that'll be switched out by beginning of April.
Oh, okay, good, thank you. Great, I just noticed Oregon's were out.
Any other news and announcements or future agenda items? Upcoming community events, I think we'll be able to talk about this again, but obviously.
Arbor Day thing. One question I did have about that, I'm getting questions from my neighborhood.
Is there any input they can have on the trees that might be planted?
You're talking about for the upcoming Arbor Day?
Yes.
No, it's already in stone.
It is, it's already set. You get what you get.
Purchase is made. Yeah.
I thought it would be in a regular development.
The reasons behind that are the trees that Cody thought are trees that are made to be planted.
No, which is totally fine. I think I'm assuming there's a few varieties, right? They're not all going to be the same tree.
But I guess my question is, I know that they're all ordered and they're all set, but let's say I wanted a tree that was gonna be in front of my neighbor's house. Can we swap, you understand what I'm saying?
We got that can of worms. I'm thinking about opening that. But even, and I don't want to make it a logistical nightmare. That's not my goal here, but more of
Knowing
hey,
a forester, and Cody, I'm sorry if you're listening, but knowing our forester, I'd say probably not.
well, that's not up to him. So,
I'll think about that. Just, let's talk about it, but if there's any way to, and again, I don't need a ton of flexibility, but I'm sure that there are gonna be, there are certain individuals that don't want a certain type of tree, right? So if that, and I don't know what that is, and I don't know what it is, but I could see that being an issue for some. So, but if we, go ahead, Jed.
Part of the grant is to certain trees we can't plant.
I'm not asking for a whole menu of trees. I'm saying if we've got 5 different varieties that are there and they can pick from those 5 varieties or whatever. And if they run out, we run out. I can totally get that. I'm not trying to make it complicated. So
pretty much just
anyone who's dealt with me so far knows, I can promise nothing, but give me the information. I get it. Yes, no, that's, and I think we can work on something that would be at least palatable to say, hey, once we can't, we're not gonna have 5 trees of one, like everybody gets the first 5 in line get that, and then everybody else, that's not I don't want that to happen there. So anyway, just throwing it out there. So we'll talk.
Jeff, I do have it. I forgot. I don't know if I talked about this last meeting or not, but next year is Belleville's 175th anniversary. So right now, at least, the community club is going to kind of take the lead on that. So we'll be looking for community members to assist with whatever we end up deciding to do, whether it be a cookbook or a quilt or all those, the parade, all that kind of stuff. So there'll be more coming out of that in the future.
Connie?
When you saw down a tree, you put one up on the terrace?
It is our hope that every house has at least one tree, and if it's a corner lot, it would have 2.
So if a tree has been sawed down,
It is not our policy to cut down one tree, plant one tree. It's our policy when we're putting the development in, that every house gets at least
I'm
one.
not talking about developments, I'm talking about old developments.
Don't worry, Connie, I don't want a tree in front of my house.
You don't want a tree?
Oh,
There's a lot of residents that don't.
Oh, jeepers.
it's north side. Matter of fact, both your trees need to go anyways.
Shh. They don't like maple trees, I don't want them taken down. They don't want to plant them, be quiet.
Right. So with that, unless I've got any other news or agenda items, we are going to move to the session portion. So the Village of Belleville Village Board will enter into a closed session pursuant to Wisconsin State Statute 19.85 subsection 1 subsection E for the purposes of deliberating or negotiating the purchasing of public properties, investing in public funds, or conducting other specified business whenever competitive or bargaining reasons require a closed session. The village board may reconvene into open session and take action on the subject matter discussed in closed session. This is related to the negotiation, establishing a negotiation position regarding the Belleville Fire and EMS contract, establishing a negotiation position regarding the Northeast Sanitary Sewer Extension, and establishing a negotiation position regarding the purchase of commercial property in tax increment district number 3.
Going to close.
Second it.
Motion by Shelley, Maxine seconds it. And I know we've got to do roll for this.
Trustee Bannon,
Yes.
Michael Kraut,
Yes.
Casmar,
Yes.
Ward,
Yes.
Ziegler,
Yes.
Service,
Yes.
and Larson.
Yes.
Session.
7:20.
Apparently Fox News is there.
You're good. on-
All right. You're good?
We're good.
Think so.
I will entertain another motion.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion by Tony, seconded by Maxine to adjourn. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? We are adjourned at 9:10 PM.